Hello, super friends. Jonathan Levy here of Become a Super Learner, and today I am absolutely tickled to bring you yet another incredible super learner success story. Today, you are going to meet Dwight. He is an Air Force pilot who has recently made the transition into flying commercial, and he faced a mountain of new learning with all the different procedures and technical manuals that one has to memorize when one becomes a pilot. Dwight had a lot of really, really interesting insights in going throughout the course, but that's actually not the most valuable part of this interview. In fact, he had a number of really, really powerful tips that enabled him to be extraordinarily successful in his first pass through the course. So our team asked that I reach out to him and help understand how he was so successful, and most importantly, how you can emulate that success. It's a really, really great interview. You can tell Dwight is a really wise guy with a lot of positive energy and enthusiasm to share, and a ton of really, really applicable takeaways. So let me introduce you to my new super friend, Dwight. Dwight, so nice to finally meet you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Really, really, really well. First off, I want to thank you so much for your check-in responses because they were super uplifting for our team. And I know everyone passed them around, and we were just so grateful to have had an impact on your story. And I want to get into all of that. But first, I want to ask you, how'd you find us? Tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to decide, hey, maybe I should upgrade my learning skills.
So I guess what really led me to it was I was getting I'm a pilot and I fly in the military and now
Wow.
civilian as well. And so I have to read a lot of technical manuals. And there's just like a ton of information. And so every week I was spending all this time going through reviewing all the books. And it always felt like nothing was really sticking. And if I like missed a week, I
Yes.
felt like I forgot everything. So it was super stressful. And I was like, there's gotta be a better way. So I went online and I looked and I found a program that I tried out for a while and just wasn't really working. It just didn't click. So I was like, I guess it's, not really for me. And then I got to another point where it's like, I gotta try something. This is ridiculous. So I just happened to Google, and then my buddy told me about Udemy, and so I found your course on Udemy, and then through that, I found the main website to the masterclass. I was like, hey,
Right.
well, I'll give it a shot. It looks legit, so you know what I got to lose. And right from the get go, I knew as soon as I signed up and I opened up the page, just the way everything was laid out and the
Oh,
user
wow.
interface was like, all right, this is, a lot
Thank
of
you.
thought went into this. I know if they put this much effort into just how everything's presented and how clear all the information is, I know that the actual like content is going to be real solid.
Oh,
And so
that's very
right
nice.
from
Thank you.
that, I was like, really excited, and each lesson I was just like super stoked about it. That's really what got me into it, was just the need to free up time and try to retain all the information, because
Right.
it was all going out the window. Yeah.
So my big takeaway is you're telling me being a pilot is not all Top Gun high fives. And there's actually a lot of
Yeah.
reading and learning that's
Yeah.
involved in books.
Yeah, it's what everyone thinks is the movie, and then there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes.
Right. And a lot of super technical science and physics and stuff like that, I would imagine. Incredible.
Yeah, tons of procedures and emergency procedures that you got to remember, limitations, and
Right.
just different operating envelopes.
And you need to, I know because a good friend of mine is a pilot, you need to remember them in the exact order and
Mhm.
in your most critical time, your worst possible psychological condition needs to be second nature, that it's A, B, C, and then D. Uh,
Right.
so pretty important stuff,
Yeah.
especially as you transition to flying commercial, and there are a
Mhm.
lot of souls behind you. So
Yep.
one of the things that I thought was so interesting about, and now I understand meeting you and knowing that you have a military background, I think I understand a little bit where it comes from. You were extremely methodical and structured about the way you went through the course. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I live in Massachusetts, but my base is in Rhode Island. So I had a 2 hour commute, to get there and then on the way back. And so my day was pretty tight. I was like leaving the house at 5, getting back at 8 at night. And so I had a super tight schedule. So when I was trying to figure out how to fit all this in. I'm like, all right, well, during the commute, why don't I use like practice the major method and
Awesome.
remember license plates? I'm like, I got nothing
Awesome.
else to do, right? So I'm just like, you know, playing them all. I'm like, all right, cool, getting some work on that. And then
That's so great.
when I would get back, yeah, when I would get back is when I would be like, all right, what's the next lesson? What's on the syllabus for me to do that night? And I would go through whatever task was at hand, and I would delegate, that the half hour before, because basically I'd have like 15 minutes to eat, 30 minutes to do my course, and then I was like, all right, got to hit the sack and go to sleep and
Right.
start all over again the next day.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I really had to just kind of figure out like what's the strategy that where I can get it
Right.
all in.
I want to commend you also because one of the first things that you pointed out is such an important thing where it's like you didn't wait for the course to be over to implement immediately. And I actually spent my whole day today because I'm always still sharpening the knife, right? Like new book comes out on online course design, I'm
Hmm.
reading it, right? And I was reading and checking off all this stuff, and it was like the most important thing is community and stuff like that we're always working to build. But the second most important thing is interactivity, right? Is like students, you have to get students using this stuff, and it's so key, and I'm really glad you said that. And then the other thing is like just building it into your habits, right? It's not like you were spending hours at a time, but building in that 20 to 30 minutes, during, at least during the weekdays, whether that's watching lectures or practicing. About how much time would you say you were spending every single day on it?
Um, so I delegated 30 minutes each night to
Mhm.
whatever was on the syllabus, and I would just try to get as much of it as I could.
Yeah,
And then during the drives, it was just I was there, so that's when I was just doing the working
just
on all the
practicing.
imagery with the just practicing with the license plates.
That's
So I'd
awesome. I
say,
imagine you're really good with license plates now.
yeah, yeah. Now I got pretty good with it. So,
Got a whole Jason Bourne thing going on.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really cool insight. Another really big insight is, and I'm going to push you a little bit here because at a certain point you had a aha moment, right?
Right.
And you went from thinking like, is this stuff really, really possible to being like, holy shit, this actually works. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like during the first, few weeks and stuff, I'm doing it, and I'm still kind of remembering the previous course that I did. I'm like, I don't know. It's like,
Fair.
is this going to work out? Uh, and then, I forget the exact point at which it happened, but especially with like working with the imagery, it
Mhm.
really started to click, and I really started to remember like certain things because I was just using it every day with conversation and stuff too.
Right.
And then weeks later, I'd be like, oh man, I remember. I didn't even know that I tried to remember that, but then I'm just like recalling it, and then with the information that I was learning because I was starting to apply it with like my publications for flying, I noticed like, oh man, I can breeze through this section and just go on to like the next one because I just know it. I just already got it, and I don't
Right.
have to spend all the effort like I used to. So it was really pretty wild because when I started to notice it and be conscious of it, that's when I was like, oh man, this is really awesome. And now I just like that much more fire to get to like the next lesson. Like, oh man, I get
Right.
what else that I got to learn? This is great.
That's that memory Pygmalion effect that we say, like, even
Yeah.
if the techniques kind of don't work for you, they do work for you, and it
Hmm.
like snowball effect. The techniques work for everybody. The more I research neuroscience, the more I realize like this is just the way our brains work. But
Hmm.
also even people who are skeptical, like it just once you start trusting your memory more, it becomes more fun to learn. And when it becomes more fun to learn, like of course it's gonna be easier. Like my good friend Zach Evans says, like fun is when you're good. And so that's really cool. And you had this big moment and you realized like you were already naturally visualizing even when you were reading.
Hmm.
Totally awesome. Um, Talk to me about pre-reading because I know that was a big moment for you, especially with something. I mean, you're in a not so privileged position where you're reading really dense stuff. That's a lot less
Yeah.
fun than the applied theory of actually
Yeah.
flying a plane. So tell me how
Mhm.
pre-reading affected you.
So I was kind of hesitant with the pre-reading at first because I'm like, it's just gonna like
Slow you
I'm
down,
just
right?
afraid of Christ. It's gonna slow me down. And So the first time I did it, I was like, all right, the other stuff works. So I guess let's see how this works. And, and so I go through it. I'm picking up the few different words here and there, and kind of getting an idea of like, all right, what's around in this section.
Totally.
And I'm like, all right, well, cool. I'll go back and I'll now actually just try to sight read it. And I was actually timing myself because I wanted to know like how long is it going to take and what's the difference, because I wanted to know like versus the old way of just normally reading it and now going through twice. And it took almost the exact same amount of time.
Right.
And my comprehension of what I was reading, even with as dense as it was way higher.
Skyrockets, right?
So I'm like, man, already I'm taking the same amount of time, and right off the bat,
right,
I'm retaining and comprehending way more. Like, I can only get better from here.
Right. Awesome. I love that. And it seems like a lot of the stuff that you went through is stuff we're going through because we're building out our YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. So I recently wrote more material on pre-reading. And I was like, I should go in and like see what the researcher has been discovering since I originally wrote the course 5 years ago. And there's some stuff in the course that's debated, that I disagree with different researchers, that researchers agree with me. But pre-reading is one of those things that it's like every research, every journal, every neurologist, everything. They're all like, yeah, pre-reading is like one of the biggest wins you can make, right? It is like not even contested that it just doubles your ability to comprehend and also doesn't take more time. It's this incredible super skill that I think a lot of people in the course are like, okay, right, this is like just one more annoying step before I get to the speed reading, when in fact the pre-reading as a skill is probably more valuable than a lot of the stuff in the course. And people don't realize, I didn't realize that when I learned this stuff. It's only over the years of talking to students like yourself where I'm like, damn, pre-reading comes up a lot. Like this changes people's lives, this skill. And especially, like I said, with dense text. So I'm really, really glad that helped out. Tell me about your biggest win in the course.
I think the biggest one probably came at the end of the course when I was able to, I took the final like reading comprehension test, and I got the results, and then I tallied up all three of them, and I was looking at them to compare, and I could see the progress I made, and I was looking at it, I'm like, man, like I literally doubled the speed, and I'm just like, I just finished the course,
right,
and my retention is still super high,
right.
And so to see all of it kind of come together at that point was really rewarding. Some like, this is real, this is cool, and like
That's
I can't
so
wait
awesome
to now apply it to everything. I just like I felt like so much more time opened up to learn all the other things that I wanted to get into, but were eaten up by just trying to do all my work studying.
Totally. I feel the same way. And like I said, today I decided, because we're always trying to improve the course and engagement, even with all your very kind words and thank you, we're still trying to improve it. And so today I was like, there's been a couple of books that have been published in the last couple of years and I really want to read them. One of them is from Julie Dirksen, who I'm having on the podcast. And, I sat down today while the housekeeper was here and he was tidying my office. I sat down for an hour and a half and I read 47% of like an academic research book on course design. And I was like, what a gift to be able to do that. Whereas most people would be like, I'll get to it on vacation when I have a week to read a book. I'll finish the book tomorrow in my downtime. And just what an awesome thing to be able to do.
Yeah,
So,
it's
Dwight,
amazing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, it's to have that skill, it's amazing. It just opens up so many possibilities. It's really incredible.
Absolutely. So Dwight, I want to be respectful of your time. I also want to have some time to chat with you after. But if you could share with me if you were talking to yourself 10 weeks ago and you wanted to give yourself advice as to how to succeed in the course, or talking to other students who are maybe just embarking, or, let's be honest, not every student is as regimented as you and is as successful as you with the course. How can people emulate your success?
I think the biggest thing that helped me was, especially knowing my schedule was so busy, was just like, all right, I'm just going to start one thing. I'm just going to start with the first lesson. I'm just going to get going with it. And however long it takes me, if I need to spend an additional week or two on anything, that's fine. And even there
Right.
were times where life just gets in the way. I had to kind of put it on the back burner, and I would just kind of do the imagery just as I thought about it during my day to
Love
day
it.
life until I got back and I could really hit the course hard again. That's what I did. And you just kind of flex with your schedule and what kind of life throws at you at the time, but you
I
just keep
love that.
on taking action. The biggest thing was just to take action.
I love that. And I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself for sure. My book last week was Robert Morer's One Small Step Can Change Your Life, the Kaizen Way. And it was recommended by my business coach actually. And just a super eye-opening thing where like so many times in life we, especially us guys, we kind of beat ourselves into submission. We're like, okay, I'm gonna start waking up at 5:30 in the morning and then I'm gonna work out for 2 hours and then I'm
Mhm.
cutting all grains from my diet, like starting tomorrow, right? And it never works. And the
Yep.
better thing to do is be like, you know what? I just need to memorize 10 license plates today. And if I get to something more, even one license plate today. And then
Mhm.
tomorrow I'm just going to do one lecture. And it's like, I think I often ask myself, like, why is the life hacking space so dominated by men, both on the teacher side and on the student side? And I think it's because women have a lot more compassion for themselves, and we could learn from that, right? Just as you said,
Yep.
like be compassionate. Life gets in the way. Like respect your process, take your time, and also, I think the most important thing in what you said is like what you left out, which is you didn't beat yourself up when life got in the
Mhm.
way. You came back, you're like, all right, cool, no problem. Like I don't have to force myself to make up the time. I'm just gonna come back and hit it hard, as you said. I think that's really wise. Really, really wise. Awesome. Well, Dwight, what's next for you? What's the next learning project that you're gonna work on now that you've established this learning skill set?
So right now I'm learning a whole new airframe. So I got that for the next couple months, which has been really cool because I've been utilizing a lot more of the memory palace techniques, uh, and it's been super super helpful. I've been really learning a lot about like what really works for me and kind of what material I'm using it on. And then actually right after that, in the beginning of next year, I'll be transitioning to another airframe on the military side. So I'll have to learn another plane, and it'll actually be pretty exciting to have just used all the techniques on one airframe and then immediately transfer them to another one and apply all the new information that I learned and different skills and how I honed it and see how much better I do on the next one.
That's
So
super interesting.
lots of
And
flying related.
well, yeah, but the beauty of it is you work in a memory palace, right? Like, so there are a lot
Hmm.
of people who are, if you were a salesman and you were going to a different place every day, it'd be different, and you would build many memory palaces. But like, you could build a 787 Dreamliner memory
Hmm.
palace and be like, the left engine is this failure procedure, the right engine is this failure
Hmm.
procedure. There are four exit whatever rows, and you could just build super interesting memory palaces in there. And because there is this element of like safety, obviously the violent, terrifying, sexual, inappropriate markers are super easy in a plane, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. I've been again sharpening the axe repeatedly, and I've
Hmm.
just been diving deeper and deeper lately into the memory palace and discovering nuances that I didn't know before. Like, how can I make the anchors interact with the markers in ways that are even more memorable? And it's like everyone's technique is going to be different. Like some people teleport through walls, I don't. But you just discover that there's so much power in this technique, and also, because you went through the whole memory course, the SuperLearner course, there's so much potential there. Like I haven't found
Yeah.
something you can't do with a memory palace, and
Hmm.
and I'm still waiting for people to challenge me. So
Yeah. It's super exciting.
awesome. Well, Dwight, I again want to thank you not just for sharing your time with me today, but also for sticking to the course and really just kicking ass in it. I wish every student, had your discipline and went through the materials and obviously was able to get your results. And I think if they did, then they would. So thank you.
Now I appreciate you putting the course together because it's really made a huge difference. So
Wow.
I'm super grateful for it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. So Keep in touch.
I will.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible transformation, right? I hope that you are as inspired as I am. Of course, I would love to make you our next student success story. So if you are interested in accelerating your learning, improving your memory, and becoming a faster reader, I want to invite you to go ahead and sign up for a completely free trial of our Become a SuperLearner Masterclass, which is the web's top-rated accelerated learning program. Also, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about this specific success story. Hope to see you guys in the free training seminar.